The women's 400 meters final at the 2023 European Games was far more than just another race on the calendar. It was a direct clash between two of Europe's most complete one-lap runners, Femke Bol and Natalia Kaczmarek, each bringing a distinct racing philosophy to the track. From a performance analysis perspective, this race offered a near-perfect case study in pacing strategy, biomechanical efficiency, and psychological execution under championship pressure. Bol entered the final as the clear favorite, backed not only by her dominance on the European circuit, but by her extraordinary indoor world record of 49.26 earlier in the season, a mark that signaled not just peak fitness, but an exceptional ability to distribute effort across all phases of the race. Kaczmarek, however, was not a passive contender. She had consistently demonstrated her ability to break the 50-second barrier and had already established herself as one of the very few athletes capable of matching Bol over specific segments of the race, particularly through aggressive early pacing. The lane assignments added an important tactical dimension, with Bol in lane 6 and Kaczmarek in lane 7, meaning that the Polish athlete had visual contact with Bol during the stagger, but could not directly respond to her rhythm in real time, forcing her to rely heavily on internal pacing cues rather than reactive adjustments. At the gun, Bol executed a controlled yet assertive acceleration phase, characterized by a smooth transition into upright running and minimal vertical oscillation, allowing her to conserve energy while still establishing positional dominance. Kaczmarek, in contrast, adopted a more aggressive opening strategy, pushing harder through the first 150 to 180 meters in an attempt to offset Bol's known strength in the final third of the race, a decision that introduced both opportunity and risk. By the 200-meter mark, the contrast in styles became increasingly visible. Bol appeared relaxed, her stride length and cadence in optimal balance, while Kaczmarek showed slightly higher muscular tension, particularly in the upper body, an early indicator of the physiological cost of her faster opening pace. The second bend proved normative, as Bol's superior efficiency allowed her to maintain velocity with minimal technical breakdown, her arm action remaining compact and synchronized, while her posture stayed stable despite the onset of fatigue. Kaczmarek, to her credit, demonstrated impressive composure. Rather than fading sharply, a common outcome after an aggressive start, she managed to stabilize her pace, maintaining a competitive position and delaying the onset of significant deceleration. However, the transition into the final straight ultimately highlighted the key difference between the two athletes: Bol's ability to sustain near maximal velocity under fatigue conditions. Her mechanics remained remarkably intact, with no significant shortening of stride or collapse in form, enabling her to continue accelerating relative to the field. Kaczmarek fought to maintain her speed, but the earlier energy expenditure began to manifest in reduced stride efficiency and increasing tension, limiting her capacity to respond. The final times, 49.82 for Bol and 50.67 for Kaczmarek, reflected not only the outcome, but the structure of the race itself, a championship-style effort where tactical execution and energy distribution take precedence over absolute time. From a technical standpoint, Bol's advantage can be attributed to her superior energy economy, consistent velocity distribution, and exceptional lactate tolerance in the final 120 meters, all of which combine to create a performance profile that is extremely difficult to challenge. Kaczmarek's performance, meanwhile, reinforced her status as a world-class competitor, particularly in her ability to absorb early race stress and remain competitive deep into the race, a quality that suggests further potential if pacing adjustments can be optimized. Ultimately, this race was not just about a win and a second-place finish. It was a demonstration of two elite systems operating at a high level, with Bol currently representing the benchmark of efficiency and control, and Kaczmarek embodying the aggressive, high-risk approach capable of closing the gap under the right conditions. Their rivalry, as evidenced in this final, is defined by fine margins and evolving strategies, and it is precisely this dynamic that makes their future encounters so compelling on the European and global stage. Beyond the raw outcome, this race also provides deeper insight into how modern 400-meter running has evolved at the elite level, particularly when analyzing the micro-phases of the race and how each athlete distributes physiological resources. For Femke Bol, one of the most striking elements is her ability to delay the onset of deceleration longer than almost any of her competitors. In practical terms, this means that while most athletes begin to significantly lose velocity somewhere between 280 and 320 meters, Bol is able to extend her effective speed maintenance closer to 330 to 350 meters. That extra 20 to 30 meters of controlled velocity is often the decisive factor that creates visible separation on the home straight. It is not necessarily that she accelerates dramatically at the end, but rather that she slows down less than everyone else, a critical distinction in 400-meter physiology. For Natalia Kaczmarek, the analysis highlights a slightly different performance profile. Her strength lies in her ability to generate high early race velocity and sustain a relatively aggressive pace through the first half of the race. This makes her particularly dangerous in races where the overall pace is fast from the beginning, as it can neutralize some of Bol's late race advantage. However, in this specific final, the cost of that aggressive opening became more apparent in the final 80 to 100 meters, where even a slight tightening of mechanics can translate into tenths of a second lost. Another important factor to consider is stride efficiency under fatigue. Bol's biomechanics remain remarkably consistent even as lactate levels peak. Her foot strike stays precise, ground contact time remains short, and her forward lean is controlled rather than collapsing. This allows her to maintain propulsion without excessive energy leakage. Kaczmarek, while still technically strong, showed minor signs of mechanical breakdown late in the race, particularly a slight increase in vertical movement and less efficient arm carriage, which are typical responses to fatigue but costly at this level of competition. From a tactical standpoint, this race also raises interesting questions about optimal race modeling for Kaczmarek in future encounters. Should she continue to apply pressure early, attempting to disrupt Bol's rhythm, or would a slightly more conservative first 200 meters allow her to close stronger over the final stretch? The answer likely depends on context. Championship races often reward control, while faster, pace-driven meets may favor her natural aggression. Psychologically, both athletes demonstrated elite composure, but in different ways. Bol exudes a sense of inevitability. Her races often look pre-planned and executed with minimal deviation, suggesting a high level of confidence in her system. Kaczmarek, on the other hand, competes with visible intent and urgency, constantly engaging with the race situation. Neither approach is inherently superior, but in this instance, Bol's controlled execution proved more effective. Looking ahead, the implications of this race extend beyond a single result. As both athletes continue to refine their strategies and physical preparation, the gap between them may fluctuate depending on race conditions, scheduling, and peak form timing. Marginal gains, whether in start distribution, transition phases, or fatigue resistance, could be enough to shift the balance in future matchups. In the broader context of global athletics, this rivalry contributes to raising the standard of the women's 400 meters. With athletes like Bol setting new benchmarks for efficiency and consistency, and competitors like Kaczmarek pushing the pace and testing those limits, the event continues to evolve. This particular final at the European Games serves as a snapshot of that evolution. A race defined not just by speed, but by precision, adaptability, and the constant pursuit of marginal improvement at the highest level.